All right, here we go. Arista, can you help me read number 1, please? Okay, Anthony, move over here, and the twin desk right there. Thank you. Number 2, Hunter. Zoe's not here. So Hunter, can you help me read number 2, please?
If no equation is given, use the question to find your variables. Then use the variables, numbers, and any other information to write in the equation.
Perfect. Can you please help me, Delaney, read number 3?
Use the question to determine what piece of information you are being asked to find. X intercept, Y intercept, X value, vertex, Y value, vertex, specific value.
Perfect. Number 4, Emma P.
Solve using whatever method necessary is what you are trying to find.
Thank you. And last one, Gabe, can you help me read number 5, please?
Check your answer. Does the answer make sense in the context of the problem?
Thank you, sir. All right, so a lot of these questions are going to be dealing with time and height and distance. Let me ask you this. Can time be negative? No. So in mathematics, you're going to solve for numbers and answers. And sometimes it's going to come out to be negative answers. But in application, you have to go back and check. Well, I'm solving for time. It shouldn't be negative unless somehow you invented a machine that went back in time. And then if you're solving for height, can height or distance be negative? No, right? Because most of the time we're going to talk about positive height, whether you're traveling up or down. Even if it's downward, we're going to say, hey, it went down at a positive x distance. Does that make sense? So we're using the word down and up to represent the direction. Okay? So let's do number 1. Sydney, can you help me read number 1, please?
What is the value of the H intercept? What does that tell you about the path of the arrow? What is the value of the T intercept? What does that tell you about the path of the arrow?
Thank you. Okay, so we want to highlight a couple of things. The first thing is, the most important part right now is going to be this equation. It says a model for the height of an arrow, okay, that you are going to shoot into the air. T is very important on here. Anthony, what does T represent? Time. And what did time measure in this problem? Seconds. Very good. Now H, Grace, what does H represent in this question? Height. And what is the unit of measurement, hun? Feet. Okay, good. So let's find the first answer. What is the value of the H intercept? How do we find that? How do we find H intercept? What do we do?
You do the equation x equals negative a over 2.
We are going to use H equals.
A is
Set t to 0.
Yeah, H intercept is when the other one's 0. Right? Instead of x and y, we're just using h and t. So h intercept is when t equals to 0. All right, let's plug it in. H equals negative 16 times 0 squared plus 72 times 0. Everything's really 0 except what? 5. So h comes out to be 5. Now interpret this value for me. It's an application. You got to write it in a complete sentence, which means interpretation. What happens when t is 0 and h is 5?
So 0 feet, the height of the arrow is 5 seconds.
Is the height measured in seconds? No. Okay. What is first? T represents what, y'all? Time. Time is measured in what? Seconds. What does it mean to have time being 0?
The arrow is shot from 5 feet up the ground.
Thank you. Okay. Remember, time is 0, meaning that that's where you're the starting point of the arrow. Does that make sense? So, Baron, can you say that one more time slowly so I can spell it out?
The arrow was shot from 5 feet off the ground.
You're right. The arrow was shot from 5 feet off the ground. Okay, excellent. Nice job. Okay. That means it's not on the ground to start with. It starts at 5 feet. So whoever this person is, this person's slightly taller than 5 feet, and then their aim is starting at 5 feet. Okay. Now, second half of this one says, what does that tell you about the path of the arrow? So your H is 5. That means your y-intercept is 5. What does that tell you about the path of this arrow? Does it go up more, higher, or is it going to start at 5 and go straight back down to the ground?
Higher.
How do you know?
Unless he shoots it.
It's shooting up in the air.
It's shooting up in the air. In addition, can you see that there's a negative 16 in the front? A negative A value means, how does the parabola opens? Opens up or opens down? Opens downward, okay? So what's happening is, we're going to start 5, it opens downward, so that means it's going to go up, and then eventually it will come back down, okay? So how would you answer that question? What does that tell you about the path of the arrow? The path of the arrow is, how does it go? It starts out at, how many feet? 5 feet, and then goes up or down? Oh, go down? Up, okay. Okay. The arrow starts out at 5 feet and it goes up. Does it go up permanently? Infinitely? Eventually it has to do what? Come back down. And eventually it will come down. Okay. So that's your path of the arrow. Now next, it says, what is the value of the T intercept? How do we find that?
Plug in 5 for H.
T intercept. Plug in H equals to 0. Okay, remember, we're no longer using X and Y because we're in application. So we have to use applicable variables. Okay, so here we go. 0 equals negative 16 t squared plus 72 times t plus 5. How do we find t-intercept? How do we solve for t? Factor. Let's try factoring. Okay? If you can't factor, what's your next move?
Oh, subtract 5.
I don't want to subtract 5. Remember, this is a quadratic equation. You want it equal to 0, so you can do what? You can factor. Okay, if you can't factor, use a quadratic formula. Should we try that? Yeah? Okay, here we go. T equals negative b plus or minus b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2 times a. All right, let's plug it in. What's your b value? So this is now a negative 7. Negatives. Oh, I'm frozen. Oh. Technology is awesome when it wants to be. Okay, there you go. T equals negative 72 plus or minus 72 squared minus 4 times negative 16 times 5 all over 2 times negative 16. Okay, I want you to use a calculator and instead of doing bits and pieces, enter this whole thing into the radical n for me. 72 squared minus 4 times negative 16 times 5. All right. Do you guys know the difference between the minus sign and negative sign on your calculator? Yeah. Where's our negative sign? Below what? 3. Thank you. So make sure you find it correctly. Once you enter the numbers under the radical n, Hannah, give me the final answer under the radical, okay? So all of that, plug it in your calculator. It should give you some really big number. Once you have it, Hannah, tell me.
No. Like you said.
That's okay. I got time, girl. No. I just want you to punch in the radical. What's under the radical right now?
Wait, I put negative 72 in the front, but I'll do that.
No, I just want you to give me the number under the radical only.
Oh, okay. Wait, hold on, let me do it.
Okay. So if you're not really fluent with a calculator, punch it in. Okay, practice before your exam day. Just see if you know where the square buttons are, the radical buttons, and so on. Huh?
Is it 74?
74? I have 72. Am I doing it right incorrectly?
It's 74.18.
No. Guys, I'm just looking for the answer under the radical right now.
That's what I got. I got 74.1.
Under the radical, not with the radical. Under the radical.
Oh, no radical needed?
Not yet. I want you guys to make sure.
Okay.
I am expecting a huge number, in the thousands. Okay. Thank you. What is it, 5,000? Thank you.
5,500.
Yeah, I want to make sure you get that step right and then the next step. Okay. Now, you were so anxious to give me the radical 5504, Hannah. What is that? Square root of 5504 is now. You can give it to me.
Oh, let me do it.
Okay, someone else give it to me if you already have it.
74.18.
Yeah, 2 decimal places is usually the rule of thumb. Okay. Now, because we have a calculator, it's awesome because I don't have to really do simplifying all by myself. You have 2 answers. One is a negative 72 plus 74.18 divided by negative 32. There's another answer, negative 72 minus 74.18 divided by negative 32. Punch those in, okay? And then we're going to decide whether we keep both, we don't keep both, we only keep one, and then how do we write a complete sentence for our answer. Baron, give me the positive one, okay? It's negative 72 plus 74.18 divided by negative 32, Baron. Whatever that is, 2 decimal places rounding. But yep, so the whole shebang. So Dylan Hunt gave me the minus one at the bottom, okay? So negative 72 minus 74.18 divided by negative 32. So whenever you're ready, just let me know. And the rest of us, please practice so you know whether you can get the right answers or not. The top one? Give me the top one. Negative 72 plus 74.18. Hit enter. And then divide by negative 32. Dylan, did you get the second one, huh? 4.56. Thank you. And I think this was measured in seconds, right, y'all? Yeah, okay. So, Baron, try the second one. Let me invite you to pass on.
Negative 0.068.
Someone confirm that for me? Yeah. Thank you.
Is that right?
Okay, Baron, I'm sorry, I was... Okay, one more time, Baron.
You're 13%.
Negative 0.07. Thank you. Okay, so here are the 2 decimal answers. Remember, you're looking for t-intercept. That means t is time. Can I keep both? No, not at all. I cannot keep the negative. I have to keep the positive one. Remember, but we're looking for time when h is 0. So in a complete sentence, what does this even mean? What does h equals 0 mean?
That means there's no height.
No height. Gabe, what does that mean when there's no height?
It means it went up and then all the way down.
Ah, went down. So where is it now? On the floor, on the ground. So how long did it take for the arrow to hit the ground?
Almost 5 seconds.
So about 4.56 seconds, okay? It takes about, don't do that please, 4.56 seconds for the arrow to hit the ground. Okay. Now, and then it says, what does that tell you about the path of the arrow? Well, the path of the arrow, is that the same as what we predicted earlier? Did it go up and then eventually went back down to the ground? Yeah. So that is the same thing. Okay. So that's that first application. Yes?
What happens if you have two negatives?
Say that one more time.
What happens if you have two negatives?
Well, I'm hoping that won't be the case. If it's the case, then maybe the math is wrong.
Can it ever be 2 negatives?
Good question. Can it ever be negative time to both?
No.
Probably not.
What would it?
Okay, so if that's the case, you might want to go back and check your calculations. All right, can you help me read example numero dos? Brayden, help me read example 2.
Wire fence along the edge of his garden to keep his animals from being spoiled. He has 20 meters of fence. What is the largest rectangle area he can enclose?
Perfect. Okay, let's highlight some important stuff. What does he have? 20 meters of fence. What are we looking for?
How much area you can close?
Yeah, how much area? The largest area that he can make with his 20 meters of fencing. What shape are we working with? A rectangle. Okay. Here's a rectangle. Label my rectangle. This is W. This is W. That's the width. And then we have a length here and a length here. Well, I have 20 meters of fence. What do I use that for? What? I use 20 meters for what? Perimeter. You're right. 20 meters. Okay. Equals perimeter. Now, do I know the formula for a perimeter of a rectangle? Yeah, 20 equals what? What's the formula for?
W squared plus L squared.
How many?
W squared plus
W squared plus L squared?
W plus L.
W plus L?
2L.
2L
Minus.
plus 2W. Remember, perimeter is just adding up all the sides, okay? Well, am I really interested in perimeters? What am I trying to answer? The largest area. And guys, the largest area is inside, has nothing to do with outside. So we need to find an area formula. What's the area formula for a rectangle? Length times width. Okay. Now, I have one equation, one area equation with two inputs. An L is an input and a W is an input. You have to make up your mind. And you can only write the area formula with one input. In this case, we're going to pick L as our input. So I'm going to keep L as my input, but I have to replace W. Okay. So I have to go back and rewrite W with relationship to L. Is there like another formula somewhere that has L and W already on your paper?
Yeah.
Where? What formula?
20 equals 12 plus W.
Yeah, the perimeter. So guess what? You're going to go here and solve for W. Okay. So if I were to solve for W, I'm going to move 2L to the left. So now I have 20 minus 2L equals 2W. How do I solve for W still? I remember I want to isolate W. I want to get W all by itself. Divide by 2. Just one term by 2? All of it. Each and every child gets divided by 2. So now W is 10 minus what? An L. Most of us probably write this in order. Either one I will accept. Okay. Guess what I do with this thing? I do. I plug into my area formula because that's what W is. What's W? Negative L plus 10. What do I do now for my area formula that has an L as an input? Times it out. You're right. Distribute the L in the front. What's L times negative L? Negative L squared. What's L times 10? Plus 10L. What shape is this? It's a parabola. Guys, if the input has a square term, it's always a parabola. If there's no square term, such as L plus 10, that's a line because it has a power of 1. By the way, what are we looking for again?
Our area.
The largest area. Let's think about this. You have an area in terms of L equals negative L squared plus 10L. And I'm looking for the largest area. How do we find the largest value or the smallest value in a quadratic function? No, factor out means we're solving for something else. We've been doing it a lot. What do we do? In a parabola, when you graph it out, how do I find
The equation.
the top or the bottom? What do we call it when it's at the very top and bottom? What's the word? Someone said it. It's a vertex. If it opens downward, the top is a vertex, isn't it? If it opens up, the bottom is also called a vertex. This is a quadratic equation, so I'm looking for the largest area. Is that the highest point? Is that called a vertex? Yeah, so guess what? I'm going to do what? I'm going to find my vertex. Okay. Vertex. How do we find the x-coordinate of the vertex? Negative b divided by 2a. Okay, b is 10, so it's negative 10. A is negative what? 1. So divide both top and bottom. Negative 10 divided by negative 2 is now 5. 5 represents what? What's 5? The L, right? Okay. Remember, be mindful of what you're trying to achieve. You're trying to see the largest area. Largest area is length times width. I have length. What do I do now? Log into here to get my what? To get your W, because I need length times width equals what? To get my, not vertex, but get my length times width equals area. Okay, do I have my length? Do I have my width? Yeah.
Do we have to plug it back into that one, or can you plug it into the 20 ones?
Oh yeah, you can plug it into the perimeter as well, for sure. Okay. Okay, let's find the area. Area equals 5 times 5, which is what?
Oh, it's 5.
Equals 5.
I'm sorry, 5. Thank you. Good eye. 5 times 5 equals what? 25. What is the unit of measurement for this question?
Is that a question?
Sure.
Wouldn't the perimeter make that square then? That's 5 times 5.
Yeah, so that's 25.
That's not a rectangle.
Oh, I love it. 5 times 5 is definitely the sides are equal. The length and the width are the same. What shape is that? A square is also a...
Rectangle.
But is a rectangle a square?
No.
No. A square, Baron, it's a rectangle, sir. All right. 5 times 5 is 25. Unit of measurement is? Meters, but I'm in area. Meters what? Square. Okay. All right. The largest area, let's write out a complete sentence. The largest area with a 20 meters is 25. Oops. Bro, can you help me? Thank you. Okay. The largest area with a 20 meters fence is 25 meters square. Yes, a square is a rectangle. Do you guys remember this from geometry? Yeah.
Why do you square the 25?
I did not square the 25, hon.
Why do you square the
Because that's the unit of measurement for area. Because it's 5 meters times 5 meters becomes 25 meters square, so m square. So volume would be m to the third.
Oh, because it's 5m times.
5m, yep, 5 meters times 5 meters, very good. All right. Number 3, can you please help me read number 3, Kennedy?
The height of a projectile fired straight up into the air with an initial velocity of 64 meters per second is h equals 64 t times 16 t squared, where h is the height and t is t in time seconds. The table represents the data for another projectile. Which projectile went higher? At what time t will each projectile be at a height of 60?
Okay, there's a lot of stuff. How many things is going on here?
A lot.
A lot. How many projectile? How many projectiles? Exactly.
4.
Not 4. Not 1. 2. Guys, it says the height of a projectile that fires straight up in the air with initial velocity of 64 feet per second. Notice how the 64 feet per second, it's in the problem, but you don't need to worry about it because they already gave you what? The equation that took care of that number. Okay. Again, h is height measurement in what? Feet. T is time measured in seconds. Okay, so all of those stuff that we want to know so we can use it correctly. And then the second line says, the table over here on the right represents another. So is that a second projectile? Yes. So how many projectiles do we have total? 2. All right, let's divide this into 2 pages. This is the first one. Uh-huh. Sure. And then this is projectile number 2. And you're going to miss this, Brandon, so. Hey. Projectile number 1, did they give you an equation already? Yeah, what is the equation? H equals 64t minus 16 t squared. But you know what? Normally I want to write it in order. What do you mean by order?
Negative 16t squared.
Yeah, I want to put ax squared first plus bx, in this case is 64t. I don't have a c value, and that's okay. That's our equation for number 1. Do we have an equation number 2? No, this is where I'm going to teach you how to get it from our chart. Do you guys remember how to get the linear regression line of best fit on your calculator? How do we get the line of best fit on your calculator? What button do we press? Hit stats for me. Thank you so much. Everyone hit stats. Where do you go after stats? Edit. Okay. What do I have to edit? What else? Plug him in. What are you going to plug in L1? The X, which is in this case the input, which is all of your T's. And then plug H into your output, which is L2. All right. Everybody? And don't do anything yet, because some of you are ahead of me and you guys are wrong.
That's slow.
Guys, do not get ahead, because right now, some of you already ran your regression and you're running it wrong. Just enter in the data, please. Everyone enter the data. Go back. Don't get ahead, because now you guys are wrong. Just enter in the data. Everyone go to L1 and L2. Enter in the data. Again, do not go ahead of me, because then you will run the wrong regression instead. Okay. So now we have L1 and L2 entered in. Go enter in. Let's see L1 enter in. Okay, go back. Oh, I tried to enter in your data. Okay. Next, remember, we're not in lines anymore. What are we studying?
Oh, problem.
Problem. We are going to run a quadratic regression. So how do I run a quadratic regression? What else do I press next? Hit stat, okay? You're going to calculate. Yep. What else I have to calculate? We're not going to do line. We're not doing line. Remember, we're no longer in linear regression. Quad. We want to go to quad reg. And then calculate. All right. It's going to give you a screen. Did you guys see this on your screen? Yes. This is what we're studying. So you need to see that. Perfect. And then fill in the A, B, and C. What's your C value on your screen?
0.
Beautiful. So give me the actual equation. So H equals, what's your A value that the calculator gave you? Negative 16x, oh, in this case we're using t. So negative 16t squared plus what? What's your B value? 48t. And C, the calculator is 0, so it's beautiful. So now we have equations. Okay? Okay. And again, the process is exactly the same as the line of best fit, except this time we're studying quadratic. Later we are going to do cubic regression, and so on and so on. So now, let's answer the question. Which one is higher?
Left side.
Okay, how do we figure that out?
We have to solve.
We solve for what?
Solve for H. T.
Solve for what? You're right, you have to solve. How do we figure out what's the highest point, lowest point is? What do we find? Vertex. Find the vertex for both. Vertex. T equals negative b divided by 2a, which is negative 64 divided by 2 times negative 16. Punch in your calculator. What did t come out? 2. Thank you so much. So that's your 2. That's giving me a time. That's not giving me a height. How do I get the height? Plug it in. H equals negative 16 quantity 2 square plus 64 times 2. Punch it all in your calculator. What did that give me? $64. Okay, so that's 64 feet. And then that's 2 seconds. So how do I write this as a complete sentence? When did this object? It took how many seconds? 2 seconds to reach 64 feet. Okay, that's the highest that is going to get. We're going to do the same exact thing on projectile number 2. All right, to see if it's higher. So T equals, or I should write vertex, so that way when you go back and study, you know that we're looking for the vertex. T equals negative b divided by 2a. Negative 48 divided by 2 times negative 16, and that will give me what? $1.5. Thank you, sir. Okay, so that's seconds. Then let's find the height by plugging that in. H equals negative 16 times 1.5 square plus 48 times 1.5. Plug that all into your calculator. Someone give me the answer when you're ready. $36? Thank you. So that's 36 feet. Okay. So which one is higher? The first object, the second object? The first one. So this one, it took 1.5 seconds to reach its peak to reach 36 feet. Okay, but that's the highest that it's going to reach. Okay, and then when that's answer, the first object is what? Higher or shorter? Higher. Okay. The first projectile went higher. Okay. Now let's answer the last part of this question. What's the last part of this question? One more part. At what times, t, in this case, the variable, will each object, what? Yeah, reach 16 feet. What do we do? Yeah, plug in 16 for each. Way to go, okay? So 16 equals negative 16 t squared plus 64 t. This is a quadratic, so we're going to make sure that we're going to set it equal to 0. I'm going to do the same thing on the right side. So 16 equals negative 16 t squared plus 48t, and then we're going to solve for t. Okay, move it up. Okay. Let's solve for t. To solve for t, I'm going to set it equal to 0 by moving 16 to the right or moving negative 16t squared plus 64 to the left. Which way are we moving? Move it to the right? Okay. Like this? So 16 to the right. So 0 equals negative 16t squared plus 64t minus 16. They all have 16 in common, but there's a negative in the front, so it's going to help us out by factoring out a negative 16. So if we factor out a negative 16, we have a positive t squared left minus 4. And then we take out a negative 16 from a negative 16. I'm left with a 1. Okay, this is a lot nicer to deal with. Then divide both sides by negative 16 because I don't want that. 0 divided by anything is still 0. So that's why we love it when we can divide it by. Okay, how do we solve that? Is it factorable? No. So guess what you have to use? Quadratic formula. Here we go. T equals negative b, which is now positive 4 plus or minus. Negative 4 squared is what? 16 minus 4 times. What's your a value? 1. What's your c value? 1. All over 2 times 1. What's 16 minus 4? 12. So 4 plus or minus square root of 12 divided by 2. This is the beautiful part about calculator. Now you can just use your calculator. The first t is when you go 4 plus or minus square root of 12. Oops, I'm sorry, just plus rod 12 divided by 2. Give me a decimal. The second one is when you subtract. 4 minus rod 12 divided by 2. All right, add and subtract. Give me the answers. Round to 2 decimal places, please. So whoever has the first one, let me know. This first one? 3.73 seconds. Good. And then the second one? 0.27 seconds. Whoa, I can keep both answers. How come? One of the times is when it reaches 16 feet when it happens. When it goes up, right? And then the longer time, which is 3.73 seconds, is when it goes back down. Both of them are going to hit 16, so I can keep both. Okay. So seconds and 3.73 seconds. What do we do on the right side? Same thing. Okay. So 0 equals negative 16 t squared plus 48t minus 16. Again, I can factor out negative 16, or I can just say, hey, can I divide each and every term by negative 16? That's the same thing when you're solving. So 0 equals positive t squared minus 3t plus 1. I need to use the quadratic formula again. So t equals negative 3, which is now positive 3, plus or minus square root. Negative 3 squared is now? What's negative 3 squared? 9. Minus 4 times 1 times c, which is 1 as well, all over 2 times 1. What's 9 minus 4? 5. So the radical 5 stays. Then this is where you use your calculator. T equals 3 plus rad 5 divided by 2. And then t equals 3 minus rad 5 divided by 2. Can I keep both answers again? I don't know either. I'm going to rely on your calculator experts in my... What's the first one?
The first one is 2.61.
2.61 second. Okay, I can keep that. And then the second one?
0.38.
0.38 seconds. Okay, looks like I can keep it again. So times R is going to hit 16 feet at 2 locations, when it goes up and when it goes down at 2.61 seconds. Okay.